Hello everybody, Tim Teacher here this week with another reading from our book, Obi, Gerbil on the Loose by Michael Delaney. So last week, the family is finally ready, the Armstrong family, of which Obi's adopted mother, Rachel, is a child. The family is finally ready to go on their trip, and they all went downstairs to the car, but they left Obi in the house, and Obi was very worried about this. But then Rachel and her mother came back to the house, and Obi ran upstairs to her house in Rachel's room to look out the window and see them come, and was waiting for them to come upstairs, but they never came upstairs. They stopped in the kitchen, right? Came in and then went back out. We don't know why they did that. Perhaps if you remember from before, you might have an idea what happened. Maybe they were looking for something that Rachel couldn't find in the car. Maybe you'll think about that. But either way, they left, and Obi was left upstairs. Right? Obi did not go on the trip, so Obi was surprised and perhaps, I don't know if Obi was angry, but surprised and worried. There's some sort of mistake had happened. So this week we are on chapter 10. Alone, right? Alone. For the longest time, Obi sat in her bedroom tower, staring out of her blue plastic dome, her eyes focused on just one thing, the brown house on the corner that the Armstrongs' human mobile had vanished behind. She stared and stared at it, hoping that the Armstrongs' human mobile would reappear from behind the house. It just had to, she told herself. Obi refused to believe that Rachel would simply abandon her like this. She couldn't. It was the oddest thing, but as Obi was gazing out of Rachel's bedroom window, she had the eeriest feeling that she was being observed. To be honest, this was not an entirely new sensation. There were many times when Obi was in her apartment that she thought she was being secretly watched. But she felt it much more keenly now. She turned and glanced about Rachel's bedroom. Nobody was there. Nobody was out in the bedroom hallway either. At least, that part of the hallway that Obi could see. Obi turned back to stare out the window. It was a beautiful day, with lots of summery blue sky and billowy puffs of white clouds. It was windy, and the old Norway maple in the front yard was heaving about in the gusts. Over by the telephone wire that stretched from the Armstrongs' house to the wood telephone pole out by the street, a flash of gray fur caught Obi's eye. It was the gray squirrel that had a nest in the top branches of the Norway maple. He was dashing across the telephone wire. Being an indoor pet, Obi, of course, had never met this outdoor creature, but she had often watched him from Rachel's bedroom window. He was an amazingly brave fellow, this squirrel, and quite the acrobat. With his fluffy tail flicking all about, he zipped across the skinny telephone wire and then, rather unexpectedly, flung himself into the air. He didn't hesitate, didn't even pause. He just leaped off the wire and soared through the air, landing on one of the tree's branches. He continued on his way, jumping from branch to branch. Ordinarily, Obi loved to see the squirrel perform his dangerous high wire act and then hurl himself through the air to the maple tree. But not today. Today, Obi's heart ached too much to be dazzled by the squirrel's heroics. An hour must have passed, then another hour. Obi continued to stare out Rachel's window. At one point, a big, hulking, dark human mobile drove around the corner of the brown house. Obi, thrilled, sprang onto her hind legs to get a better look. False alarm. It was merely another human mobile that looked like the Armstrongs. Those darn human mobiles, they all looked alike. Obi was starting to feel hungry. She had not eaten all day. She rose, shook off a few cedar shavings that were clinging to her fur, and dropped down her tube. She waded through the deep cedar shavings that swallowed up her living room floor. Arriving in her kitchen area, Obi stopped and stared in horror. Her little food dish was empty. Not one seed remained. In all the excitement of that morning, Rachel had forgotten to feed Obie. Panic seized Obie. "Oh no!" she gasped. "What am I going to do? I need food to survive." She glanced at her water bottle hanging from the bars of her living room. It was nearly empty. "Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!" cried Obie, freaking out. "No food, no water. What am I going to do? I'll die without food and water. I don't want to die. I'm too young to die." Just then, from out in the hallway, Sugar Smacks strolled into Rachel's bedroom. For the first time in her life, Obie was actually glad to see a cat. For one thing, it meant that Obie was not the only pet that had been left behind by the Armstrongs. She hoped that Sugar Smacks might be able to tell her where the Armstrongs had gone. Obie stepped over to the bars of her apartment. "Hello, Sugar Smacks," she called, smiling her most cheerful smile. "Am I glad to see you?" Next week we'll talk about Read Chapter 11, A Dangerous Game. I wonder if you think Sugar Smacks is going to be excited to see Obie. I don't think so, but we'll find out next week. I hope you enjoyed the reading this week. I look forward to reading with you next week. Bye-bye.